In our off-the-grid house, we have systems designed to deal with the waste we produce. This is our composting toilet. This composting toilet is originally designed to be a moldering toilet system, where you have two different toilets which you switch back and forth on every 2 to 3 years, depending on need. When you're ready to come back to the original one, it's designed to have composted enough that the waste is ready to be disposed of as fertilizer. However, this system did not work super well for us, so we've moved to a new system without changing any of the infrastructure. This system is that we just use one of the bins and then turn both bins 2 to 3 times a year. And we move the waste from the active bin over to the other bin once a year after we've cleaned the other bin out. We put the product from the other bin around our fruit trees. We don't want to use it in our vegetable garden because that just is a little bit too close from the human manure. But the fruit trees, it's not in direct contact with any produce. In each bin, there's a screen a couple of inches above the bottom. This catches the solid waste and lets any liquid waste through, which then, with these pipes in this vent, is designed, this is to heat up in the sun and suck air out of the system. This pipe is to have the input so that liquid waste evaporates out. We try to limit the liquid waste as much as possible because for best composting it should be just a little bit damp. This system also deals with toilet paper and composts that down. We also use sawdust as a way to get some more aeration and carbon into the system. Overall, the system works well and is only a little bit gross to deal with the waste down below. On a daily basis, it isn't at all gross to use because of the proper ventilation, screening, and sealing we have and the modifications we've made to the upkeep and maintenance of it. We've managed to keep the smells to virtually nothing and there's no flies in it. These are both issues with improperly designed or maintained composting toilets. I'm sitting on the lid of the septic buffer tank for our gray water system. Wastewater comes into this tank from the house and then leaves this tank to the leach field. This tank acts as both a settling tank for any large solids and as a buffer tank so that when we're doing wash or any large amount of water is going down the drain, it can fill up in this tank and slowly disperse through the leach field. Because of our composting toilet, this system does not deal with human waste, hence me calling it a gray water system rather than a black water system. It only deals with the waste from our sinks, tub, and washing machine. My parents built the house and this system in the 1990s, thus they were able to get away with their home-designed and hand-built system. This would not be allowed today because there's legislation in the 2000s in Vermont that give more requirements for septic systems. Though a gray water system still requires the same design as a black water system, it can be volume reduced to account for the lack of use of a toilet if there is a composting toilet installed at the house and no regular toilets. We try to keep particularly dirty and greasy stuff out of the system, rinsing dirty stuff either outside or in a bucket which we can then dump outside before washing it and letting the water go down the drain. The reason for that is twice a year we change out the filters on the input and output of this tank, and one of those times we empty out the water completely and shovel out the sludge. These are our compost bins where we compost food scraps from our kitchen and when processing foods from the garden. We have 3 bins designed for composting, but each of them has a different use. This one is the bin where we directly put stuff in. This one behind here is when we take stuff out of here and let it compost for a while in there before going into the garden. That one over there, it's a rotating type compost bin which we didn't find worked very well for us. So we just keep some sawdust in there which we can put in these bins when needed. We also produce waste which we can't deal with on site. Though we try to limit our consumption of things which produce stuff which must be disposed of in the trash and recycling, some is necessary. In Vermont we have a single stream recycling which most things can go into, but not everything. We do separate some things like plastic bags which can't go in the single stream but can be recycled separately. This is the last video I'm doing on our off-the-grid house. If there's enough interest, I'd be willing to do videos on off-the-grid houses owned by friends of ours that are both more like conventional houses and a little bit rougher and less refined. If you have any questions about what I talked about in this video, please leave them in the comments and I will try to answer them as best as I can.